How are you all doing today? It's been a while I made a video like this. I've actually been engaged with other things, but today I saw something that I decided to speak about because I see it as something that recurs a lot online, directed towards the Igbo people. Now, what is this particular thing I'm talking about? It is this inclination for the non-Igbos to tell the Igbo people not to talk about the Igbo genocide or the genocide carried out against the Igbo people. They do this with the argument that the Igbo people were maltreating other ethnic groups in their midst, and so the Igbo people cannot claim or cannot complain about genocide. That is actually the argument. Okay. Now this has been going on for decades actually, but yesterday the issue came up again, and this time it has taken a very interesting turn. Now somebody who is not Igbo came out and wrote something on Twitter. The person goes by the handle Mrs. Zanga. She was trying to instigate an argument against the Igbo people and the claim to genocide. Then she wrote something. She said, do you know what the Biafrans did to the Omoku people? Then she claims that her mom is from Omoku. So her mom lost a lot of siblings in the war. And also her grandmother's sister was by Biafran soldiers during the war. She did this to claim or to ask the Igbo people not to talk about the genocide. That is, she is trying to say that the Igbo people were maltreating other people by claiming that her grandmother's sister was by the same Igbo people. Now, we are going to look at this thing that she wrote very quickly. Why? Because it is something non-Igbo people bring up all the time. They bring it up all the time. You know, non-Igbo people always have strong opinions about Igbo people. They bring it up all the time. Now, this is the issue with this kind of argument. These are the issues. Number one, claiming that the Biafrans did anything to Omoku people. Number one, that is a lie. Why is that so? When you claim that the Biafran Army did whatever to Omoku people, you are indirectly saying, or you are indirectly explaining that the Omoku people were not part of Biafra, which is a lie, because the Omoku people were a strong part of Biafra. Now, also, when you claim that the Biafrans maltreated the Omoku people, you are saying that Biafrans maltreated Biafrans. Now, is that the case, or was that the case between 1967 and 1970? I will tell you no. And I will tell you no, not the fact that I am Igbo or whatever. I will tell you no because the reality on ground says no. And this is what we are going to look into now. Looking at the Biafran military, the way the military was structured, Biafra did not have a standing army. From the get-go, from the beginning of the war, the Biafrans did not have a standing army. They had some officers who were part of the Nigerian army, who, crossed over to the Biafran side naturally. But the Biafran region did not have a standing army. Now, what does this have to do with this argument? It has everything to do with what this woman has just written, or what this young lady has just written here. Because the Biafran territory did not have a standing army, it was up to communities to raise their own army. Communities, indigenous communities, towns had to forward youths as soldiers. Initially, of course, it was freeway. People were coming in to join. As the war went on, it turned into commandeering and conscription. Whether you want to fight or not, you have to be part of the effort. So, at the beginning, all the communities were forwarding their own soldiers, including these people of Omoku that she's talking about. Now, to make some things clear, Omoku themselves are Igbo people, just as I, who is speaking to you right now. They are as Igbo as I am, okay? So the Omoku people, they forwarded their own youth. As a matter of fact, they had soldiers from Omoku in their own community. It was more like community defense on a military level. That is how it was across several parts of the Biafran territories, especially within the Igbo areas. And so, for somebody to claim that the Biafrans maltreated the Omoku people, what she doesn't know, because she is actually lying, what she doesn't know about the civil war is that most of the troops in Omoku were actually Omoku people, and the rest of the troops were people from surrounding communities to Omoku. That is, you can say, brother and sister communities to the Omoku people. So if they were soldiers who were actually Biafrans carrying out atrocities against the Omoku people, as they like to claim, then a huge part of those soldiers were actually Omoku youth themselves. Omoku soldiers, Omoku officers. So how possible it is that Omoku soldiers were busy maltreating the Omoku people to the extent of maybe their sisters, their mothers and their sisters within the same community? How possible is that? Because that is actually what she's saying without even knowing it. So it's important that these things are brought up and these things are explained clearly. Biafra did not have a standing army, and so each community had to raise their own small army. You will see the videos from 1967 to 1970. You will see videos where the local youth are being trained in the military tactics. You will see it because they did not have a standing army. They didn't even have enough guns. When you see the videos from that era, you will see that most of the people who were training with wooden guns. You can imagine having to train youths with wooden guns to face actual soldiers. So that was actually how it was, and it was not different in Omoku. Omoku also had their own troops that they forwarded to defend themselves, because the Nigerians were not bothered about whether you're a soldier or not. They were harming everybody, both soldiers and civilians. And this is the problem with every other claim that goes like this, because this is not the only claim. There are claims like this from maybe the Ikwerre people and some other people. I'm talking about the Igbo communities now. The non-Igbo communities in Biafra are another side of the story. I'm talking about the Igbo communities now. Now, when you talk about Omoku or Ikwerre, for instance, they'll tell you, oh, the Biafran Army was maltreating them. This is also a lie, because the Ikwerre people forwarded their own soldiers. So for you to claim that the Biafran soldiers were maltreating you, that means a huge part of those Biafran soldiers were your own Ikwerre youth maltreating you. They were there when it was happening. They were part of it. In some instances, they were also the commanding officers. And this is why, when you ask them, okay, if that was the case, why is it not recorded? Why don't you people make the history about it so that the world can hear your story? But you will notice that the Ikwerre people and the Omoku people, and even this young lady who wrote this nonsense here, they do not document these things. Because for you to document that the Biafrans were maltreating the Omoku people, you will have to write in your documentary, on your series, on your book, you will have to write that a good part of the soldiers were Omoku people. That is why these atrocities are not recorded against Biafran soldiers, because it was their own youth maltreating them. It is important to bring these things up so that when you see people make these claims, you know the right questions to ask them. When you see this kind of claims, you have to ask them, how come were the Omoku soldiers watching by and other soldiers were maltreating them, if that was the case, or if that's what she's trying to say? A lot of times when you go into investigation about this kind of atrocities, it was actually carried out by Nigerian soldiers. Now, where there was high-handedness of Biafran soldiers are well recorded. There was high-handedness, especially among non-Igbo communities, because many of the non-Igbo communities did not want to support the Biafran cause or the Biafran war. So they were not, sending in youth to fight as soldiers. Those who were conscripted, most of them will run away from the battle line. Once the heat is too much, it's either they cross to the Nigerian side. I'm talking about the non-Igbos. It's either they cross to the Nigerian side or they run back to their communities. It wasn't like the Igbo people who were actually at the front line holding the line. And so, yes, there was high-handedness by Biafran forces on most of these non-Igbo communities. Another reason why there was high-handedness was that most of the non-Igbo communities, they resorted to working with the Nigerian military. That is where the issue of sabotage came in. They were working closely with the Nigerian military. So whenever the Biafran soldiers, on ground, get to know of these things, they might handle and mistreat those who were engaged in some of this sabotage. So I'm not saying that, oh, nothing happened. Things happened, but this kind of situation where people come out and say Biafrans maltreated Omoku or Ikwerre or any other Igbo group is arrant nonsense, because the standing force of those communities were made up of the indigenous youth themselves. These are the lies that they peddle against the Igbo people. If you want to come clean about the Biafran war, you come clean about it. Nobody claims to be a saint. But you can't deny the fact that there was a genocide against the Igbo people, which they were defending themselves against. And this is clear from all the videos from that era. When you see the videos online, there were videos from journalists, there were videos towards the relief people, medical relief, the doctors, even the priests. Most of the European priests who were on ground, they shared their stories about the war. You can go and cross-check. There are thousands and thousands of videos from the Nigerian Civil War, both on the Nigerian side and the Biafran side. You won't hear instances where the Biafran forces were maltreating Omoku. If those issues happened in those communities, those were local issues, maybe some misunderstanding, maybe some of the youth were being rough in their approach and all that, but not that the rest of the Igbo people maltreated the Omoku people. How could they have done that? Do you know that if you see an Omoku person today and you see an Igbo person from the southeast, you can't differentiate them? Unless somebody points to you that this person is Omoku and this person is from another community, you can't differentiate them. So how will they be maltreating the Omoku people? The same thing goes to the Ikwerre people who claim they were maltreated. How can we maltreat the Ikwerre people when all of us are inside the same force? We are all within the Biafran force. So what you are saying is that your own boys within your community were maltreating you. All these things, let me not say all, most of these things are lies. But they do it anyway because they feel they have to tell something to the Igbo people. They want to make the Igbo people to stop talking about the genocide. But we can't stop talking about it. We will keep tackling all these lies one by one by one. But these are the lies that people come out and they peddle against the Igbo people. I'm not saying it was war. There were a lot of atrocities from people. But trying to make it look like other Igbos deliberately targeted the Omoku people, that is rubbish. It never happened. Because the standing force of the Omoku people were mostly Omoku youth. Like I'm saying this so that whenever you see this kind of arguments, you know the exact questions to ask them. Ask them how come the army, the Biafran army in Omoku, which was majorly indigenous, how come they ended up forcing themselves on their own sisters and mothers? How come? How did it happen? We'll leave it at that today. Thanks.
How many people? I'm beginning to go this side and go this side. This zigzag, I know one time.
How should that be? I'm from Lebanon, exactly.
I want to know the people.